Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, it's been a little while. We didn't really know what to do with this transfer rumor mill update that we're coming at you with you guys now. But it seems Matteo Guendouzi to Aston Villa could still happen. Before we get into that, mate, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Feels like it's been a while. Feels like it's been a while. Things went quiet really quick, didn't they? It was like
Did
a few days ago, there was all sorts flying around. It was like Hakim Ziyech. I saw Aubameyang and like all sorts of crazy names. Then all of a sudden it went, and it was nothing. And so it felt like we'd been a while. And so we were talking earlier about like, we should hop on the Zoom tonight and get a pod out. Sounded great. And I have a text from you, not to out you, but it was like, here's why Aston Villa won't sign Matteo Guendouzi, because it was like, I'm not just making a fool out of you, mate. I put a tweet out off the account earlier as well saying, I think Villa's transfer business is done. I don't think we're going to be seeing anything else. Then all of a sudden, basically, as soon as, you sent that message and I put that tweet out, story after story came out. And then all of a sudden, it's like, apparently, that deal for Matteo Guendouzi, which I'm excited to speak about because I wasn't on the original sort of rumor mill
yeah,
episode that you did. It was a solo one from you and a fine one at that.
you're too
But
kind.
unbelievably, in some sort of like completely Villa related transfer triangle, it's Azadine Unahi of all
It's funny.
players who we spoke about is like going to be going to Marseille apparently, which then frees up Guendouzi to come to Villa.
It's a mad one, isn't it? How that works, and it's always. I think that's like, if anything, this kind of puts into perspective. I think just how difficult these deals are actually to get done right, because you mentioned Unahi. It's got to be over a week ago now, isn't it, mate? Since we did that episode, and it was one of them ones where there was a few links with Unahi to Villa, and we kind of ummed and ahed about it, but we was like, you know what, we'll give it time. He balled out of the World Cup. This guy is a serious baller. Obviously it was a link that happened anyway. But most of the noise came from Leeds and Leeds United's end, right? And again, I guess another sort of transfer triangle that
Mm.
happened with Villa and Leeds and Juventus is Weston McKennie. Obviously, that's not happened yet, but it's looking increasingly likely that Weston is going to find himself up here in Yorkshire, where I'm based. So it's funny how these things all work out, and I just think it's like patience because Marseille potentially can't make this move for Azadine Unahi without the guarantee of the funds from a transfer for Matteo Guendouzi. I'm not entirely clued up on Marseille's current money situation or how their transfer policy works. And the fee that's been reported for Unahi, mate, is a mere £8.7 million, which makes you wonder why Villa, who may not have actually been interested, or Leeds, who have been sort of the front runners for Unahi, why it begs the question: how have they not been able to get this one done?
Um, because we play in the Premier League.
Well,
Because we
yeah,
play in the
I
Premier
guess so.
League.
Yeah,
And that is like literally that is the flat out bottom line. Is it's that like a Ligue 1 club will go to is it Angers? Angers? Where?
Angers, yeah,
Yeah. And that's an £8.5 million deal. But if you play in the Premier League, it's a 28, 38 million pound deal because clubs are too smart. Of course you would do that. It's why, we're looking at Mykhailo Mudryk. Like when you've got guys doing this, Mykhailo Mudryk landing in the Premier League for like £900 million, it's like the money that's been splashed around in the Premier League this January alone is mental. Like, we're recording on the day of it looks like Anthony Gordon's about to become a 40 to 45 million pound player. Like it's crazy. And so
yeah.
I think you will start seeing these really interesting fees where it feels like clubs on the continent are getting bargains, but it's just because that's probably like that's sensible business is being done over there, whereas we've completely lost the plot and finally, and probably rightly so, clubs on the continent want their fair share. And I guess it Marseille are a club that notoriously have had a lot of financial trouble since a new owner came in, Frank McCourt, in 2016. When I was doing some research for this podcast, there was an article by Forbes. Admittedly, it came out in 2020, so it's a few years old now, but saying they'd lost like 200 million since he came in, and that was pre-pandemic. So then you've got the pandemic on top of that, and that's why I think that, like, I mean, to be honest, I don't think it's too. Obviously, there are financially troubled clubs, but I don't think it's too crazy that in January clubs don't want to see players leave until they have a replacement, because, like, you're midway through a season, you can't afford to just leave big gaping holes in your squad. And obviously it's Azadin Hunay, and I'm literally just seeing now that it's Ruslan Malinovsky as well from Atalanta might be coming in. And so I think that's maybe why this one has dragged out a little bit. But it's going to be we're the 27th, mate, and I'm guessing nothing's going to happen tonight. Otherwise, we've got a busy night.
God,
so
absolutely.
you guys might be listening to this on either the night of the 27th, maybe the 28th, and it's like that deadline is increasingly coming closer, and so it's going to be tight, mate.
I mean, on Matteo Guendouzi, there haven't actually been any sort of links, but we kind of, or any fresh links, let's say. We know that there's interest because that has been reported for God knows how long at this point. But in the sort of where Villa sit in this, this is the first potential domino that could fall, which is why we bring it up as well, because Leeds miss out on Unahi, they get Weston. We miss out on Weston. Maybe we were never even interested. We finally land Guendouzi because Marseille land Unahi. And it's interesting because, I mean, it's been so well documented. You guys would have seen the tweet from Matteo Guendouzi when Villarreal won the Europa League against Manchester United. Unai Emery is this guy's second father, essentially. So when it comes to the sort of the personal terms, I would expect that to be incredibly easy to sort of hash out. That's going to be the quickest part that's involved in this deal. It's the fee. Now, there was a 40 million euro fee that was being bandied around earlier on in the month, mate. I think it's fair to say, with the output, with the way he's matured, which I think is really important as well. And there is a deeper dive that obviously we did at when the link first came out. So feel free to go to that if you want some more numbers and stuff as well, because I haven't got anything to hand. But 40 million euros is extremely good value for money when we're talking about Matteo Guendouzi in this current market, Dan, aren't we? Even with the caveat of the being a Premier League club doing it, this deal, 40 million euros almost seems too good to be true.
Yes, yeah, it's crazy that we're, it sort of links to what I was saying earlier. It's crazy that we're at a point where, like, you can strike a deal for a 45 million pound player, and like it feels like you're getting a bargain. But such is the nature of the Premier League. When, like, I almost think nowadays you're at a point where with Premier League deals you've kind of got to ignore the transfer fee a little bit, because they're so inflated, and like it's such a crazy situation that the league has sort of developed itself into financially. It's just an absolute Goliath. But for Guendouzi, I found his full name out when I was doing some research for this pod, and it's glorious. So I'm going to give it you guys right now. Matteo Elias Kenzo Guendouzi Valverde Mendoza Ollier.
Nice. Puts us to shame, mate.
That's nice. Yeah, it does a bit. Is it like, and this is a player whereby, like, you've not only got all that stuff that you mentioned, there's two things which, like, super, like, basic level stuff, but he's still only 23.
Yeah,
it's crazy. This guy feels like he's been around forever, but he's still only 23 years old, which is fantastic. There's still so much room for growth there, and he only joined Marseille in 2022, so he's been there like a season and a half. He made that loan from Arsenal permanent for about 9 million pounds. So it's easy to see why this is a great deal for Marseille, because that's like a 400% profit in like a year and a half. And he's still well into his contract, so they've got no reason to sell. But I think this is a deal that, if you can sell Guendouzi for 40 million and you can bring in two players potentially, like, we saw they signed Ilic as well, or are about to get Ilic in, and Unahi, and you can bring in three players for that price. And one of them is of the caliber of someone like Azadin Unahi. It's sensible business. It's sensible business for all parties, and I think that fee might raise a few eyebrows on the continent. But as you rightly say, mate, in terms of Premier League terms, that is, it's value for money nowadays. And it's, as I say, it's crazy to say, but this is a guy that's 7 caps for France. He's been playing. It's easy to forget he's played in 3 European leagues now as well, because he had some time in the Bundesliga with Hertha. And so, yeah, I like it. He's going to give us a bit of bite, a bit of tenacity. And as you say, mate, Unai loves him, and that's good enough for me.
Absolutely. One of the main points that I raised in the initial video was that this guy is a winner. Like there's a dog in him that it's got him as far as it has in his career. He wants to win so badly. And there was a few tweets when I tweeted it and sort of posted the short on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, being like, "What's this guy won? This guy hasn't won anything." Blah blah blah. I guess that FA Cup in 2020 and that UEFA Nations League doesn't count then. You know, easy to forget that he was involved in that FA Cup win. That, of course, Emi Martinez would have been involved in as well. Am I right in saying he would have been in that squad?
Yes,
So
yes.
it's, I think like there's this thing where, like, of course, like to be sort of like a proven winner. When you say winners, you look at your Casemiros, you look at your Cruces, 5 Champions Leagues next to the name, handful of Copa del Rey's, league titles, all that kind of stuff. That's easy to go, right. They're a winner. But there are so many players that will never, like, in their entire life, win a trophy that are like winners. I'm using air quotes for the listeners. Like, look at someone like Connor Cody. I'm not a huge Connor Cody fan as a player, but as a guy, like, you would want him to be on your team because he will do whatever it takes to win. That is who he is as a player. That is the personality that you see on the pitch. And that's what I mean by Matteo Guendouzi is a winner, and that sort of arrogance and bravado that we've seen on the pitch. And whilst he has matured, it's been quite useful for him, really, in getting him as far as it has. And when you look at the sort of, as you say, mate, Anthony Gordon to Everton, you're talking 40 million quid for that, 40 million euros for Matteo Guendouzi, albeit they play in different positions. But a Guendouzi comes in and he is instantly better than most of, if not all of the midfielders in the teams in and around where Villa want to be. If you look at the Premier League right now, Brentford are obviously, they're doing quite well. And so at Brighton, I think you could probably say that Caicedo is maybe better than him, or they're sort of on a par. Depends what recency and Prem bias. Caicedo is a brilliant player. Don't get that twisted, guys. But he's one of them players that it's like I say you can't go out and buy, but we're about to go and do it. But it's quite difficult to recruit a player in this position. And, even like look at that midfield that Fulham's got. Are you taking Harrison Reed over Matteo Guendouzi? I don't think so.
Yeah, he's and I'm really excited to see him play with Boubacar again.
Oh,
This is
God,
such an
yeah.
underrated aspect of this deal. Obviously, those guys spent some time playing together at Marseille last season. And as there's a really great quote actually, which I found it's really easily accessible online. It was towards the end of Boubacar's time at Marseille when it becomes increasingly obvious that he wasn't going to renew. At the time, there's rumours that we were interested in signing him, as were Atletico Madrid, which only reinforces how crazy it was that we got that deal done in the first place. But Guendouzi does a press conference, and he says some really nice things about Boubacar. He says that he wants to share the dressing room with him once again. He had the opportunity of meeting him a long time ago, and he was already a friend. And so you assume that they've spent time playing together in the youth ranks with France, perhaps, as they're around the same age and stuff like that. He's having an extraordinary season. He's a player who is enabling the team to continue to fight for his target, his future. I hope he stays. He grew up here. His family live here, and he loves Marseille. And so, obviously, unfortunately for Guendouzi at the time, Boubacar goes and signs for Villa. And so such is that relationship. And so eager is Guendouzi to put the two of them back together that he's coming to the Villa. So, yeah, mate, it's great. And that's one of these, like, I feel like when we're talking about this deal, that's something that I don't think has been spoken about enough, is that, you're not asking a guy to come in and forge new, like, totally new, like, relationships. I think there's every chance that it is those two guys we see playing next to each other in midfield, not necessarily from the get-go, but certainly long term. That seems to be the ambition. And there's more than a few guys that it puts their sort of futures maybe a little bit more up in the air than they would have expected. But the fact that they've already played together and they'll have that knowledge and seemingly what is a good relationship that's been formed way before their time at Marseille is such a great part of it, mate.
It is. And, Booba, obviously, it goes without saying, adjusted to life in the Premier League like a duck to water. It was so easy for him. Guendouzi comes in, as you say, he has that added benefit of being a teammate and having that chemistry from last season, the season before. But he's also got the Premier League experience in his back pocket as well. It's going to take no time to adjust whatsoever. He's going to be back with a manager he knows he can trust, a midfield partner he knows he can trust, and it's just so exciting. And I mean, I'm looking at a list of I've got transfer marked up, and it's got all the top deals in from January so far. I'm not sure why Mikhailo Mudryk is not on this list, but he's not. We've currently got John Duran on the list as the fifth most expensive transfer in the window so far. So I mean, Guendouzi coming in, if it's the 40 million euros that's been reported, that makes him more expensive than Nane Madueke, who's joined Chelsea from PSV. Man, Anwar El Ghazi must be like demanding a raise right now. They've sold all of their attackers. Like it's all on Anwar now. I mean, Trossard comes in 24 million euros, transfer marked of that down as. So I mean, this has the potential to be the second most expensive deal that gets done in the entirety of January, and I think that just shows how serious Villa are about it, mate. And I'm going to be buzzing if we can pull this one off, mate. Honestly, again, I expect things to pick up, and with only a couple of days left, we know these things take time, but I'm sure everyone's been losing their mind, right? Everyone's been going crazy, but it's you have what, like 30 days to recruit, 31 days to recruit. It's not a lot of time whatsoever. Obviously, these things are kind of planned in advance as well, but with as many parties involved as there has been, you can understand why it's as late as it is, and we're still trying to get this one through. So, I mean, if we do, again, we've got to give a massive shout out to the club, to Unai, to God, I forgot his name, Johan Langer, maybe even Christian Perzo. God knows what he's doing these days, but it shows such a real sign of intent, mate.
Yeah, I like it. It's a difficult market to do business in this January, and I think one of the reasons why it has gone quiet is because we are a sensible club. It seems we don't get pulled into bidding wars. We don't pay stupid fees for players. This will be by far and away our record deal as a club, and so it says a lot that we think that Guendouzi is the right guy to do this. Am I right in saying that Buendia will be the second? Buendia coming in at what was it, 35 or something like that? What did we pay for Buendia? Something like that.
Yeah.
So around that mark. And so, yeah, it says a lot that we're doing this, because we don't usually pay big fees for players. And I'm not saying that necessarily this is, but, it is the first time that Villa have breached the £40 million mark in our history, and it will do that comfortably. So, but to be honest with you, mate, that's probably not a record that's going to hang around for much longer. So,
No.
Yeah, it's a sign of the times. Indeed.
It absolutely is. Guys, let us know your thoughts on this, on Unai to Marseille and Guendouzi to Villa. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Again, your support now more than ever means so much, especially as YouTube has demonetized us, the absolute bastards. Hopefully we can get that back. I need to delete a few videos still to get that back. I can't bring myself to do it. But
I'm gonna have to log in one day and do it for you, mate.
you're gonna have to do it, mate. Honestly, I can't do it. But yeah, guys, the support has been amazing. We've got the giveaway that we're going to do in a few days as well. At the end of the month, we're going to give away 2 shirts. I've got one. Well, it's probably going to be easy to just send the other one to the winner, so we can sort that out at the time. But there will be details on how to enter and all that kind of stuff coming in the next few podcasts. If you didn't know, we're on TikTok and Instagram, at Heart of the Hot on TikTok, at VillaPod on Instagram. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure you leave a review, subscribe, follow, do whatever you want to do on there. It means the most to us. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Number Villa.